Hey folks, today what we're doing is we're going to tighten up on this this trim framework on the my slide on my RV. It's pretty loose, and right behind it is the rubber that seals against the wall. So with it loose like this, it's really not sealing anything once it's out. So what we're going to do today is show you how to replace that, tighten that up, and fix that problem. Okay, the first thing we need to do is take this piece of trim off. Now it's only held on by a couple of little brads, so it's real easy. You can get right behind it and pull it, and just be gentle with it. The nails will come right out, little tiny brads. Okay, put that on the side. Now behind here, you'll see that the trim piece is attached to a piece of plywood, and that is also just attached on with a few small brads. So we're going to get between those two, and we're going to pry. I'm going to pry that off. As you can see, I'm giving it a little space there. All the way down, there's only a few brads in it holding it also, and if you reach in there, you can feel where they are. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit heavier duty tool here. Get in behind there and pry it. Now, you just want to get the frame off, and here it is. So we've got this trim off, and it's just a few brads holding it on. Okay, now after you get this trim piece off, some of the brads are going to stay in this plywood. They're not going to come off with the trim piece. And the easiest way to get that out is just to get some channel lock pliers, get a hold of the head, and just pry them right out. They come out real easy. Okay, when I'm going to take this trim piece off, I want you to notice that a lot of the brad nails came all through the back side. Those need to come out. And the best way to do that is the same way on the other ones. Just pull them right through. And once you do that, you get those out of the way. You can see that sometimes it leaves a little impression where it came up. And all you need is a little sharp chisel or a knife and scrape it nice and smooth, so when it goes back on, it sits good and flat. Okay, now that I've got the trim off, we're down to the plywood that's attached to the framework of the slide. And as you can see, there's only a couple of screws in it holding this thing on. And that's where the problem lies. So once we tighten that up and put the trim back on, done deal. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm tightening up these screws on this plywood to just make it sturdier. It goes in not very far, but it's just enough to tighten it down where it's supposed to be. Now it's already pretty sturdy, as you can see. But there's nothing up here, so I'm going to drill and put in another screw up here a little bit higher up. Okay, so now I'm going to drill a hole through the plywood and into the metal framework. And I know that it's only about 3/4 of an inch in, puts it about the center of that framework. Not very hard to do. You're going right through some thin frame metal. And now I'm going to put a screw in there, and that's going to help shore it up and make it even tighter than what it is. Now you don't have to be an expert to do this. Anybody can do this. Okay, so when you take your trim piece off, you're going to notice that it's actually two pieces. And if you get a sharp object behind it and you can separate it, pull this middle piece out, just pry it open. Just be careful not to break it. It's just little brad nails, and you want to be careful with it. Now, once that's out, you can mount this back in here and then put your trim piece back. Okay, now we're getting ready to put our trim back on. What I'm going to do is put it in position, and I'm going to use this piece, the first piece I took off, as a guide of how far out to set this so that it's even on the inside. And now I'm going to take my brad nailer, which is not handy, and I'm going to shoot a couple of brads in here. Now those brads now have permanently mounted this to that plywood frame on the back side. And I'm going to do this in a few places all the way down, using this as a guide. Shoot my brads. All right, now that I've got this piece attached, you can see right here I've got a couple of nail heads that's sticking up a little bit. And in order for the centerpiece to fit back flush again, I'm going to tap that down. Gently tap them down so that they don't interfere with the trim piece. Okay, now Okay, now we're ready to attach this final piece. Goes right in here, and with only there's no tension on it, no pressure on it, so only a couple of brads is all it takes to hold this in place. All done, nice and solid. If you have a problem with the little navel, the holes from the brad heads, you can go to any hardware, any lumber yard, and get a little cut up color putty to match this and touch it up a little bit, and you're all done. All right, thank you for watching. We've got other projects that my wife's got me lined up to do on this mobile home, so just stay tuned. Subscribe below.